What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Love and Rise podcast with your host, Aunt Ma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
And we want to say thank you guys for following us and listening on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and also you guys who watch here on YouTube. We appreciate everything. If you guys, this is your first time, make sure to follow us and subscribe. We post podcasts on podcast platforms every Wednesday, and on Thursday, we upload them on YouTube. So I hope you guys have been enjoying Love and Rise podcast. On today's episode, I want to talk about something that's very, very serious. And it's about the Jonathan Lewis situation. The kid who got in a school fight in Las Vegas and so happened to pass away from it. And this is really, really hard to talk about because, as parents, and even as, when we went to school, we went through a lot of this.
Right.
And fights happen all the time, but it's an unfortunate situation where someone actually passed away. So rest in peace to Jonathan Lewis, to his family. I know they're going through a lot. And so this is a very touchy subject. But I don't want to talk too much about the court system and all that stuff, because we're not really lawyers here.
Right.
I just want to talk in the perspective of a mom and dad as parents, because what the dad had to go through is something I would never want to go through as a parent. Okay, so if you guys haven't heard about this situation, it's gone pretty viral lately. So what happened was a 17-year-old high school student in Las Vegas was beaten to death in an alleyway around the corner from campus by 10 of his classmates. And these guys that were beating on him, they're between the age of 13 to 17, so they're probably in high school. And it was a prearranged fight, and it broke out over a pair of headphones and a vape pen.
Yeah, I did hear about that. So the backstory with that is he was basically defending a friend. So I think some kids decided to pick on him because he was like a smaller kid. And I think they stole that vape pen from him and the earphones, right?
Yeah.
And he was trying to, back him up pretty much.
Well, what the news articles say is that the smaller kid was thrown into a trash can.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's left out in a lot of things, but I caught it in a couple other articles. And so when Jonathan Lewis saw that, he stepped in to defend his friend. And when he stepped in, that's when he got beat by the 10 kids. He got punched, kicked, stomped on, and he had to go to the hospital, and he was declared brain dead.
Yeah, I think a lot of the hits, right, were like blunt force.
Well, that's what they said at the end.
Yeah.
And pretty much after a week, he passed away from his injuries. And so it's crazy because, well, one, it's a prearranged fight, which happens all the time,
But
right?
prearranged by who? Because if he was defending his friend, then was it like premeditated with the group of the 10 guys?
So, well, I don't know. I think you're kind of jumping to conclusions right now because there's two different things we're talking about. In terms of just the fight itself, supposedly, from what I read, both parties had prearranged a fight to meet into the alley after school and fight. But what they didn't know was they were going to get jumped, right? This kid is like, he's trying to protect that he got stuff stolen from him. He's getting bullied, right? And I don't know who, they said the victim, but I don't know if it was a victim or the kid who got the stuff stolen from. Before the fight, he took off his shirt and he was ready to fight too, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know which kid this was. So everyone's down, right? Now, when you say premeditated, that means like they're intended to do something else, right?
Right.
And what's going on with the justice is that the dad is asking for justice. 8 of the kids got arrested and they're charged, I think, for murder or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. And so now there hasn't been any lawyers talking about this, but there's professionals saying, well, when they break everything down with the 8 kids or even the 10 kids, when they got into the fight, did they intend to kill the kid, you know? And most people don't, but they don't know how strong their kicks can be, especially to the head. And they're not taught that as well, you know?
Yeah, I feel like
So
whenever you get into fights, like you don't expect to try to like kill someone, but also, I feel like maybe you're just so into the moment, you're so heated, and you kind of just like black out in a sense where you just keep going, right?
I mean, sometimes like when it's a group of people like that, they do it just for fun, right? And most people are not
sucks.
thinking about having someone die. That's I think last thing people want to do. But you know what they're saying is with the 8 kids, even though they're all charged the same, the outcome might be different for every kid because is there one kid that was following an older kid? Or the other kids, like no one knows, right? Everyone has their own intent. So that's what's kind of hard to break down here.
Yeah, and I think that's why they keep asking people like if they have footage and evidence because you're saying that they're trying to charge all the kids probably to the extent of how badly they injured this person and how far they kept going, how many times they kept hitting them.
Right.
So, because some kids were probably more involved than others.
Right. So I'm going to keep talking about this article that I have here on my phone. It talks about how, you know, it says here, the victim is seen taking off his shirt to prepare for the fight. And then the 10 students immediately swarm him, pull him to the ground, and begin kicking, punching, and stomping on him.
It sounds so planned. Like they already knew that they were going to jump them.
Yeah, it does sound like that. You know, it doesn't just happen where it's like all of a sudden they jump him. It's like while walking to the alleyway, the group of kids are like, yeah, we're going to jump him and all that stuff. So that's usually what happens because I've been in that situation. You know, it's always planned out to gang up on somebody.
Yeah, because sometimes it will happen if like people see their friends getting beat up pretty hard and then they kind of just get into it. But for this specific situation, it sounds like they already knew that was the plan.
Yeah. So they're trying to figure out, you know, was there somebody in charge of this group? You know, that's what's hard. They're still trying to find 2 other kids out of the 10.
Oh, I see.
They haven't found them yet. And it's like, it's hard because I don't understand why they haven't found them. Don't they go to school?
Yeah, and I think people are just not giving names. But from what I read also was that so whoever was there watching the fight and recording it, like after he became unconscious, they just left him in the alleyway.
Really?
Yeah, and there was just like a innocent bystander that just happened to like pass by and saw him on the floor, and I guess he took him over back to the school and then called for help. So who knows how long he's been unconscious on the floor, but like no one helped.
That's a little bit of a different story, right? There's someone recording the fight, right? That's not helping, who's probably a part of the group, right? Because if he wasn't a part of the group, he would have helped afterwards. Even when you get in a fight, okay, so this kind of changes what I was thinking. When you get in a fight and you beat somebody so bad, at some point you still feel very bad about what you did and you would help that person up, knowing that you defeated them. Right. But the fact that they didn't help him, then there are some different intents there.
Yeah. And I think that's why they're trying to look into things and to try to charge them because the intent was to hurt him and not help him at all.
Yeah. So how do you feel about the situation where the person who passed away wasn't even the original fighter? You know, he was backing up his friend, and I feel like we've been in these situations ourselves where a lot of times when we get in fights when we were younger, it was because we were backing someone else up.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know we're always so big about standing your own ground, defending yourself. And I think it's gone to the point where it's like you can teach them to make sure that they can take care of themselves, right? But at the same time, it's like, to what extent? You know, if you're going to defend yourself and fight back, like, how can you know how to do it where it's like safe enough?
So here's a couple of things. When you know you're going to, no matter what, when you get stuff stolen from you, you're going to try to defend yourself. And when you're about to get in a fight and you see a group of people like that, that's when you kind of have to pause and rethink the situation. Is something bad really going to happen here? Can I just walk away? Can I just take the humility and walk away from that? Like, you have to dissect the situation in the moment because things change right before a fight. You know what I mean? So
And then when it comes to like stolen property, do you feel like it would have made sense for them to maybe just like report it? And I feel like they may have gotten jumped, but at least it may not have gotten this far.
as once a kid who had stuff stolen from me, I'm not gonna let anyone get away with it. So I was always a smaller kid in high school.
Yeah.
And there was a time when there's a couple times. Okay, I'll talk about these two incidents that I had. One time, it was during lunch, and I was sitting at my lunch table with my actual group of friends that I sit with every day, right? And one of them decided to take my wallet without me noticing. And so at the moment, I don't know if it was a prank or if he's really doing it. But in my mind, I'm like, why would you do this, right?
Yeah.
So I stand up to the kid and I tell him, I'm gonna break your nose if you don't give it back to me right now, right? Like, first off, it's like, give it back to me, give it back to me. He won't. They're
Right.
laughing about it. I go, all right, I'm gonna break your nose right now. The moment I said that, one of the deans came by in their little golf carts.
Of course,
and
that
they
would
heard
happen.
it. They took me and the kid into the office and we both got suspended. In the report for the school, all they got was me saying I'm breaking some kid's nose. Right? I go
okay.
home, I get in trouble by my parents because I got suspended and for what I said, but no one says, hey, did someone take your wallet? Like, why did you do this? Like, it's just all bad news for me, right? So me protecting myself, I got in trouble.
Yeah.
That was one really bad incident that I had.
Yeah, I actually have a similar story too, and it just popped up in my head. But I've actually had my wallet stolen twice
Yeah.
at school, and one of them was from a friend, and he took the wallet, took the money out, threw it on the roof, and I tried to confront him about it, but like nothing happened. You know, I couldn't prove it, but I knew for sure like that he did it. And then there was a second incident, like that was in junior high. And then this other incident was in high school. And I was in the lunch line. And I guess like these two sisters, like they got into my backpack. They opened it while I was in line and then they grabbed my wallet.
Yeah.
And then when I realized it was missing, like I confronted them about it. But, you know, they just denied it and everything. But I knew for sure it was them. I don't remember if I reported it to try to like get it back. But I felt like even though I defended myself, like nothing came about it.
Like when you're 16 years old in high school, a lot of high school is about being cool. And you're not going to go to the office and be like, hey, someone took this from me.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, hey, what's up? Did you take this? You know what I mean? Like, because the whole school is going to know about it. So like for you to go to the office, that's not happening. Like we got to think about when we're a kid, because as an adult, we think differently. Like, okay, maybe let it go. It's not as important, you know, stuff like that. Especially with nowadays, everyone's getting killed for these things.
Yeah.
Right. And now we can tell them different things. But when you're in school, none of that matters. It's a totally different world that they're living in.
And I remember it was just two sisters, right? So it's just me against like two girls.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact that I was probably like, okay, so should I say something? Is something going to happen? I'm going to be outnumbered. But I feel like that's what so many kids go through in school. And it's a matter of like, do I defend myself or not? Do I let these people bully me? Like, what do I do?
Right.
And it scares me because, you know, our kids, they're still young now, but
Yeah.
as they get older, like these are things that they're going to have to go through.
So what was the outcome of your two incidents? You just lost everything?
Yeah, I lost my wallets. And
that was
I
it?
confronted them though. Like I didn't let them bully me. And, you know, I would always stand my ground with both situations.
But you didn't get it back.
I didn't get it back because they just kept denying it.
And you didn't. So that's why you didn't fight them, because they denied it.
Yeah, but I wasn't the type to want to fight over stuff like that.
Well, my difference is the guy knew, we both knew that he took it, right? He said, yeah, I took it, and he's trying to bully me.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I had to go down to like, let's fight type of thing.
Right.
Right.
So he was doing it to mess with you. These
To mess
people
with
did
me,
it because
yeah.
they wanted my money,
Right.
which I didn't have much anyway in high school. So
I had another incident where now there's another group of friends, and these guys we're on the basketball team together. So we see each other every single day. After school, we have practice. We go on the school bus and we ride together. We're teammates, right? Like we're friends.
yeah.
And so one time they decided to take my whole backpack from me. And it was a group of them. And I'm like, give me my shit back, right? And they're pushing me and they're laughing at me. And so I tried to defend myself. But we didn't even get to the point of actual fist fighting. They just gave it back after a while. But I felt like shit that people were trying to bully me and take my stuff away, right?
Yeah,
especially your own friends. And so I'm just thinking right now, like, why are these kids think that it's funny to do this?
I don't know.
Are they trying to be cool?
Probably.
Like, aren't you my own friends?
I don't know, because like what you're saying too, people were trying to like be cool, right? And to show that they're so cool. And I don't know why or how being cool correlates to like bullying people. Because I feel like I've been bullied a lot too, like my whole life growing up.
Yeah.
Even like for the fights that I've had, I've only had a few, but like I used to have those same girls that I fought, like they would come to my house and they would like egg it and stuff.
Right.
And I don't know, it was just people wanting to prove something to other people.
I've had those same so-called friends after school. You know, I'm that kid that rides my bike to school, rides it home from school, or I'll walk to school and walk back because my parents weren't available to take me to school. And I remember one time I was riding my bike and like I got chased by like, I don't know, it was like a group of 5 of them, you know?
People that you knew?
Yeah. From my basketball team, people that I go to their house and hang out. You know, it's just all of a sudden that one day they decided to pick on me.
You know what I've noticed when it comes to like when you have big groups of friends, and this happened to me so much, right? So we have a group of friends and then something happens, like it could be the smallest thing between you and one other person in the group.
Nothing even happened though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It could be something so small, like, oh, like she said something that I didn't like. And then the whole group would just go against you. And I feel like that happens a lot.
I don't know, I feel like they just picked on me because I was small. But it's just the fact that like, I don't understand why people steal stuff from you and then want to fight you after. There's this sense of like pride that they want to have and be on top of the world, or like be that cool kid in school. Like that mentality's got to change. And I feel like that comes from parenting at home.
Yes,
right. So
I agree.
The kids who are stealing stuff and fighting kids, their parents aren't with them too much to be able to teach them. And that's why they're doing that. On the other end, my parents weren't available all the time to teach me too. And I'm on the other end getting, you know, my stuff taken from me or getting in fights trying to protect myself. So it's like when you're not there for your kids and teaching them and being close to them, they're either going to be the ones picked on or the ones that are picking on people.
Yeah.
You know?
So for me, I feel like I was bullied most of my years growing up, and
like your high school years?
No, like from maybe middle school, junior high and up, like nonstop. And I would get bullied a lot by girls. Like I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it, but like, so there was this one time, because I was the type of person who I would always defend myself, but I would always stand up for other people if I saw them getting picked on. And there was this one particular girl, and I remember it because it was like 7th or 8th grade, and I ended up becoming that bully for a little while because I was like, oh, this girl, she's such a bitch. Like, she's so mean.
Yeah.
She keeps picking on all these like innocent people who would not defend themselves. And then I started to become like a mean girl, and I was like mean to her. And I just remembered like how bad I felt doing that. Even though I was like trying to stand up for the right reasons, I felt like crap trying to be that bully.
Right. I think by the time we've been bullied for 5 to 7 years in our school life, by the time we get to seniors, we're pretty much bullying other people now because of what we've went through. You know, like I've been in that situation too. And when you look back, you're like, damn, that's a horrible person.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm learning from this whole conversation here is that we always teach our kids, defend yourself, fight if you have to, because just don't take shit from anyone, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, I'm kind of thinking to teach the kids, don't get in any fights. Even if, you know, your kids know how to fight, just don't. Because anything can happen and you cannot control other people. You don't know what they'll bring to school. They'll bring knives to school, stuff like that. At my school, every week there was at least one fight in the alley
Oh, wow.
near
That's a
school.
lot.
We would walk like 2 blocks, go to the alley and fight. And everyone knows that's the alley that everyone goes to.
We had that alley too.
Right.
But I feel like fights were more innocent for us back then. So whenever there were fights, it wasn't a big deal. Like no one really got hurt.
I mean, people would jump in and stuff, but it wasn't to the point where it's like
how it is now.
Right. They would jump in because they think it's fun to get a punch or a kick in, but it wasn't to the extent of really hurting
Like
someone
trying
that bad.
Yeah.
I
I think we also have to teach them to be smarter about things, because going back to those girls who used to come to the house and egg the house, after I got into a fight with one of her friends, then the other girl came to my house, knocked on the door and was like, hey, because you beat up my friend, like we have to fight now because I have to defend her. And I'm like, yeah, sure. But in my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to be smart about it. I'm not going to come out now and fight you because who knows what you have like set up
right
wherever you're trying to go. So probably shouldn't have fought, but, we planned it out and I was like, okay, well, we're going back to the alley where I fought your friend the first time and did that. But even then, yeah, what you're saying is right. Like they should probably avoid fights, but I think they just have to, I don't know. They have to assess the situation.
Exactly. Every situation is different right before the moment happens. And even if you don't fight and you go talk to authorities also don't help, which is why we end up fighting.
They don't help unless something already happens, which kind of sucks.
Not really. So there's a situation where like your house got egged, right?
Yeah.
For me, it was a group of kids. They came in the middle of the night to my house. They TP'd my house and then they lit the TP on fire.
Oh.
So they almost burned my house down.
That should be a felony.
And then we called the cops. And the cops eventually found the kids driving around.
Okay.
Now the cop comes to me with a huge aggression. What did you do to those kids? And I'm like, am I the victim here or am I, the guy who caused the issue?
Yeah.
So the cop wouldn't back me up. And this is in front of my parents. And I got so mad.
And you guys were the ones that had to call the cops because you were getting harassed.
We're the ones to call the cops. And this is probably my first incident I had with a cop where they weren't helping me. And this was in high school. So now you can tell why I always have shit with cops.
Yeah. Oh, I've been in those situations.
But every single time, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, this is like my own house. There's an arson going on. And you're asking me, what did I do to these kids?
And you're calling for help.
I don't even know who did it at the moment. You know what I mean? Like all I know is someone is lighting my house on fire with my family in there. And nothing ever happened. They didn't get arrested. Nothing happened at school.
Did you find out who it was eventually?
Yes. And by senior year, this is the kid that I just kept bullying and bullying and bullying and became my number one enemy.
Gotcha.
Because now it's become like we're just enemies.
Right.
Right. So we got in like, I don't know, at least 6-7 different fights with each other, stuff like that. Right. He'll see me. He'll point his like gun finger to his head. Stuff like that. A lot of threats, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, sometimes it's better to just walk away from the situation and put your pride aside. But, right now what we're doing with our kids are 5 and 3, right? And we put them into jiu-jitsu class. And so we are now at this young age trying to teach them how to defend themselves. But is this the wrong move? Because if they can defend themselves, they can get swarmed and jumped and it can happen to them too, or something bad.
Yeah, but that can happen to any kid. But we're actually preparing them, I would say, mentally and physically, because ever since they started training, you can see how confident they are in themselves and their composure, the way that they hold themselves accountable for things.
Yeah.
And I feel like if anything were to ever happen, they would be more level-headed. Because say if someone wanted to fight them in school, if they didn't have all this training and discipline, I feel like they might get like really hot tempered and just want to fight and not think clearly.
Right.
But I feel like because they've gone through all of this training, that they can be more calm and selective of what they want to do. So if they're in a situation, they'll kind of be able to assess it.
I think that's what it is. So if our kids have jiu-jitsu training for the next 5 to 10 years, not only do they know how to protect themselves, that's not even the major thing. It's the mind got stronger, right? So their mind can assess the situation in a more calmer action. And when I was speaking to one of the jiu-jitsu parents the other day, their kid is, they've been doing it for like a couple years, and they're like in middle school. And this kid is such a good fighter. Like, this person can take anybody on, okay? And so I was asking them, like, how has it been for her at school?
Yeah.
And what they said was that when she goes to school, and she's been in this position where she sees fights all the time.
That's so funny
right?
because I was going to bring that up too. I think we're talking about the same kid.
So she sees fights all the time to the point where when there's kids fighting next to her, okay? And she's just like looking at it, and in her mind, she's like, oh, that's not a real fight.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And she just stands there. She doesn't move out of the way for the people who are rumbling next to her, like literally touching her leg,
Yeah.
So her mind is so strong where she's like, man, that's some petty shit. Like, this is stupid.
And it doesn't affect her because
Exactly.
if kids have not been around that and something like that happens, they're going to like have flight or fight, right? They're going to be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Oh, this is so scary. Like, do I hide? What if someone comes after me? What am I going to do? Like, they panic, right? But then hearing like about this student, she's just like, oh, this is nothing.
Yeah. She knows she can take anybody on because she's a champion, right?
Yeah.
She goes to all these tournaments and things like that. And it just really made that mind stronger. And so that's why the other day we had our kid do a tournament, right?
That's right.
And I think you were so scared and nervous to have her do it. Like, she's 5 years old, guys, and she's been training for 3 months. And a tournament came up. It was Nevada Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu State Championship tournament. And I was like, I don't know if my daughter's ready, but I want her to go through the tournament. And if she loses, like, my mind was like, I don't know if she's gonna win. It was more of like, I know she's gonna lose, and I want her to go through knowing that losing is okay. Feel the defeat, feel the emotions. So after a couple years, you're kind of immune to that type of emotion, and you know how to handle situations differently.
Yeah.
So that was my goal for her joining the tournament.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I would agree. So for me, I was just more concerned because it was her first tournament and I didn't know how it was going to be. I had a feeling she was going to be going against all boys only because there's not too many girls her size and age that she can compete with. And I was very nervous about how she was going to react because what if she lost and she lost a few fights, right?
Yeah. She lost 2
Yeah.
and she won 2, right? She ended up choking a kid out twice and winning by submission. And she lost twice because the other kid was stronger and just won through getting more points than her.
Yeah, and she cried so hard after this, but I feel like she was able to learn good sportsmanship. So you remember, like, after the fight, she cried both times, right? It was against the same kid, and that family, like the dad, he's also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I think because of that too, like, that whole family, they're very supportive.
Oh,
they
they're
came,
awesome.
yeah, they came out, they had the kid give Leia hugs, and it just comforted her and let her know, like, it's okay to lose sometimes. Just, remember to be a good sport and try again.
So, her first match that she had and she won, I didn't know that you're supposed to go to the losing bench and shake hands and say good job and stuff. So she ran to us, we congratulated her, and that was it. And then when I watched the other matches, I'm like, oh, we missed the whole sportsmanship thing.
Right.
So on the next match, I was going to tell her to make sure to do that. But she lost and she was bawling and crying.
That was hard to watch.
And so she, I carried her over to the other bench and made sure that she said good job and stuff while she was crying with so many tears.
Yeah.
But the fact that the other family gave her a hug and said, it's okay, good job. Now, this part is very, very important. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. When she was crying, she got that comfort from the other family that beat her, right?
Yeah.
And then also after that, I told her, after you lose all the fights, it's okay. You can't win every fight. If you cry, that's okay, but you have to go over to the other side and you can't be a sore loser. You have to say
Right.
good job, right? And I think this is the most important part, because now fast forward 10 years later into the future, when let's say she does get in a fight with somebody and she beats somebody, she knows when to stop and when someone's going to get too hurt. And then she's going to, if someone's too hurt on the floor, she might pick them up and say, hey, that was a good fight. Cool. Are we done?
Yeah, I feel
You know
like
what I mean?
she'll have better control of the
They
situation.
can control it.
Right.
So that's how early this part matters in her life. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't understand that it all correlates together, you know? So I think being in these tournaments really helped her. And I really want our kids to do this almost every single time there is a tournament available.
Yeah, and I think it also just helps with her pride too, because it lets her know that in the future, if there's going to be successes, there's going to be fails, whether it's like through fights or like anything else, right? So that they just know how to like handle their emotions a lot better.
Yeah. You know, there's another situation with our 3-year-old son, right? Our 3-year-old son also does jujitsu, but he's a baby right now.
Yeah.
Right. And so every day he either gets hurt because someone, you know, did a submission too hard, or he got pushed down, he fell down from running, just baby stuff.
Yeah,
right?
because he's the smallest
And
kid
so,
there.
He cries every single day.
Yeah.
And so right now what I'm trying to teach him is, every time he cries, it takes him some time to get back on the mat and practice again, you know, like 15 minutes. So right now what I'm trying to tell him is, today, let's try not to cry. If you fall, you get hurt, it's okay, but just don't cry today.
Yeah, just
Okay.
get back up.
Because it's been like 3 to 4 months of him crying.
Yeah.
So he's gone through a lot of like letting that out. But now it's like, he's going to be 4-year-old soon. And I want him to just learn every day, let's try to not cry, you know, and let's build that strength.
Yeah, and every time he cries, like he lets us know specifically why, right? So if he's like, oh, well, I don't want this kid to do this move on me. So now it's like, okay, well, don't cry about it. Do something about it, right? If you don't want him to do like an arm bar on you, then this is what you need to do.
And pull your arm out. Yeah. So now he's got to think and be like, how do I stop this, instead of just telling the person? Because he tells the person, don't do this, don't do this. And he starts crying when he's doing it. And it's like, well, you're letting them do that. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
telling someone like, you know, in a situation where it's more serious and you're getting robbed and you're getting kidnapped or whatever, and you're saying, don't kill me, don't kill me. And then you get killed. It's like, you have to just stop, assess how you can defend yourself and get out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that might be your only chance.
Yeah, because if these are his encounters now, and like if he were to get picked on at school or get into a fight, he's not going to defend himself at all. He's just going to cry and be like, don't do this to me. But we don't want him to ever be in that situation.
Yeah.
And there was this like one video that I saw that was going viral everywhere. And it was posted by like the pro-Asian pages, right, on Instagram. And it was of this like young, innocent, like Asian girl. And I don't know, maybe they were in high school, maybe junior high, I don't know. But she was basically getting picked on by like these 2 girls. And there was just this one tall white girl, and she just kept picking on her and would hit her, and she wouldn't do anything. She would just cry and yell at them to leave her alone. And then eventually there was this like black girl that stepped in who was the same size as this girl. Like she was freakishly tall.
Yeah.
And she stepped in and started beating her to like kind of show her like, hey, stop picking on this girl. Like I'm gonna kick your ass for doing that. And just to see that happening, I think that's really cool. But at the same time, what if our kids don't have that person to back them up?
Well, here's the Jonathan Lewis situation, right? Where it's like I'm clapping that this person stepped in and helped the person who couldn't do anything, right? But at the same time, now your life is in danger.
Yeah, but I think she did it in a smart way. So I think she found this girl, like they were on the street and she found her by herself. And this is the same thing that was happening to the other Asian girl. She was by herself, no one there to back her up. But she went to this white girl who was bullying that Asian girl, and she was on her own.
Yeah, I think it's a different situation, right? Like the person who came in and stepped in already assessed the situation, saying like there's only 2 other people here, stuff like that. But in the Jonathan Lewis situation, he's stepping in when there's 10 people
They're already
around.
there, yeah.
They're all there. Like you can't jump in and be like, I'm going to fight 10 people. It might have to be like, you're just going to have to use your words. Guys, stop. And they're not going to stop, but eventually they will. Right.
Yeah.
But you can't go in there trying to attack everybody. But it's hard because he's the one that got swarmed on,
I know.
you know? So you can't even like, even if he didn't have the intent to fight anybody when he was helping his buddy, he's just,
They were already in that situation
could've-
for being there.
he might have, like, no one knows what happened, right? He could have been like yelling, stop, stop, stop. And then he got jumped. He got
Yeah.
jumped, right? And so what do you do? Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, and just being in school is always about proving yourself. But there have been fights too that were like planned or scheduled at school before, and like sometimes they just wouldn't happen, or the other kid wouldn't show up, which, yeah, people would make fun of them and say whatever, but like it probably can prevent someone from getting like seriously hurt
Yeah.
or like murdered, like in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think every fight I've been in, I've assessed, when it's the one-on-ones, I'm definitely going all in. But when it's a group of people, that's when I have to rethink it. And I've still gotten in fights with like me versus a group of people. Like, I don't have a problem with that when it's like 4 or 5 other people against just me, myself. But when I see them pull out knives, that's where I'm like, okay, now I just need to stop.
Yeah, that's a different story.
And people think that you can't stop in the middle of a fight. When you're a kid in your teens, you can stop. Like, I've been in 2 situations where people pulled out knives and I had to just stop the fight and be like, all right, that's it. It's over.
Yeah.
And I walked away. At that time, also, after you're fighting for a minute, they're tired, And then they're also like, yeah, I won, right? So it doesn't even matter. They're walking away too.
Yeah.
So you can stop in the middle of a fight, and you can tell your kids that as well. It doesn't have to go all the way through. It's enough is enough.
Yeah.
So I've been in some crazy situations, man. I've been also in other situations where I've got shot at twice, 2 different times, 2 or 3 different times I've been shot at.
I can't even say that's crazy.
And so, you can, in those situations, when you're getting shot at, you can just run away and get away from the situation, and you can leave that alone.
But how do you even get into those situations, and how did you get out of it?
It's parties.
Oh, okay.
You go to a party, and then just some people show up. Some bad people show up. One time they just showed up and just started shooting. Right? And everyone had to run.
That's a scary situation, because how many parties are our kids going to be asking to go to, and how many times are they going to say they're going somewhere else and then they end up going to a party?
So in this situation where we're at this house, we're all in the front yard, and someone came by and started blasting, then we all ran in the house, and then there's my friends in there who started busting out their guns, started loading it up, and then they went out and they're gonna shoot back. But those guys were gone by then, right? So you have a situation where it's like, now when you're getting shot at or you're getting in a fight and you're kind of like, at this moment, you gotta go for cover. Now, what do you do after that? Do you call it a day, or do you go kind of like back up your pride? I've been in other situations where same thing, we're at the front of the place, people come up and we're like 5 feet away from each other and we're getting shot at, and I know everybody there. I'm friends with everybody there,
So were you just at the wrong place at the wrong time?
It's just my friends wanting to shoot my friends, but if I'm not the one next to the person who's shooting, then I'm not their friend at that moment, right? So now, even though I'm at the wrong place at the wrong time, I'm still also the enemy. It's just like the situation in high school, right? Where like I have a basketball team who I talk to every day. I'm at their house and we have fun. And all of a sudden they start picking on me.
Yeah, the loyalty in school is just it's different.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, once it got to the gun stuff, it was like college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing. The loyalty is so different.
Yeah, I think that just goes back to people trying to prove themselves. So it doesn't even matter. So it's kind of hard, like growing up in school, because you don't know who your real friends are, and people are still trying to figure out who they are, you know? So it's going to be hard seeing our kids go through this.
I think one of the things too is I feel like a lot of kids who are in martial arts and have a stronger mentality, they're not really going to these parties, are they?
I don't think so.
I'll say yes and no. Like for me, I did martial arts for like 15 years and I still went to all the parties.
I think it depends on the kid,
But
honestly.
then when I'm looking at these kids at the school right now that our kids are doing jiu-jitsu with, they're not the type to go to parties, or I can't see that yet.
It's because they're still so young.
Yeah, I mean they haven't talked to the wrong crowd yet.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to like discipline and staying busy, because these kids dedicate their time after school to go out there and train. And I feel like they're just so busy, and after that, like they're tired and they're just thinking about what they want to do the next day, like when it comes to school.
Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is just sharpen their mind and make it stronger, to where if they were to hang out with some bad people and they start drinking and partying, they're not going to enjoy it or know that when too much is too much.
Yeah, I think we have to give them a purpose in life every time, like for every stage in their lives. Because I think for me growing up, I was very, what is the word? I was like stuck at home all the time. I couldn't go anywhere. I wasn't exposed to much just because I couldn't do anything. Like I wasn't allowed to go out.
When were you able to start going out?
A little bit in high school, but not really. Like I still had a curfew of like 10 p.m. And it got to the point, because my parents were so strict, where I had to like lie about where I was going so I can actually go out. And because I didn't get to really do anything, like I would go to like house parties and just hang out with friends and stuff like that. And then I would have to make up like this whole story to my mom and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to go running, you know, because I was in cross country. I was like, oh, I'm going to go training for a little bit. We have a marathon coming up, and I'll be like in my running clothes and stuff. Yeah. And then I would change to be able to go to like a house party. And I feel like because they restricted me from doing so much, that it just made me like, as soon as I was able to get out, like I just did whatever I wanted to, like all the things I couldn't do.
I think this is the problem with the parenting part, is if we hold our kids back and say, you can't go out, you have curfews, because I had all that too. I had a curfew, I couldn't go out, school dances, I could only pick one a year, stuff like that. And I had a very strict schedule with my parents, right? And so because I could never hang out with friends, I also had to lie. I also snuck out of the house, you know, after midnight, things like that. And it got to the point where by the time I was free and I left the house at 18, like a week after I turned 18, I moved out because I wanted my freedom. Right. And from that point on, I went buck wild, right? Parties nonstop, all these things, because all of a sudden when I'm introduced to these new things, I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. I can't believe I'm doing this, right? So now you're going wild. But if you can, at an early age, as a parent, and at an early age, helping your kids, like, okay, you want to go here with your friends? Go ahead. You can go here with your friends. You can do this. Let them go out. So when they see something for the first time, they're not like, oh, wow. Like, you know, they don't need to go wild. They've been through some bit of going out.
Yeah, so I guess that was my point of giving our kids purpose for every stage of their lives that they go through. Because for me, like, my parents didn't give me like a purpose of things. My purpose was to stay home, clean the house, do chores, do my homework. That was it. Like that was my purpose. But for us, like we're giving them purpose right now to focus on jujitsu. So that's something that they're focused on right now. And that's what they're striving to do better in, rather than just keeping them at home and not letting them progress and like improve and find activities to like improve on. Yeah. So when they do that, they're focused on that. They're not just caged in at home and then they're like, oh, well, I don't get to do anything. So I want to go out. I want to go to a party. I want to do this.
You know, with what you're saying right now, I'm very happy with our decision of having them do jiu-jitsu, because we took them to like 5 different types of martial art places, like taekwondo, karate, Chinese kung fu, right? Stuff like that. And I was very close to putting him into kung fu because that's what I did when I grew up, right? But I'm so glad we picked jujitsu because just like karate and taekwondo, you get to keep improving and you keep getting new belts, right? From like white to gray belt, yellow, orange, purple, brown, blue, black, all those colors, right? And so with Kung Fu, you don't get belts.
Oh.
And so you don't get that sense of like improving. The only type of improving is like, okay, now I can start doing some front flips, back flips, no hand cartwheels. Now I can start playing with weapons, knives, swords, sticks. That's kind of the upgrade, is having enough discipline to now learning weapons training. That was Kung Fu, so maybe that was like the cool part about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it wasn't like belt colors.
Yeah, just to be able to see it every day and put it on and to know that you've like accomplished.
Right. But I think it was more of like, well, I did master how to use a stick, right? And twirl it around my head and do cartwheels with it and flips. And then now I get to master the two swords, things like that. So it's like, and then nunchucks. So you keep upgrading, and that's kind of fun and look forward to. But I mean, I guess I'm just saying, like, when you guys have an activity for your kids to do and there's a purpose to keep moving forward, it'll keep them out of trouble.
Well, I mean, you had Kung Fu, right? but in your situation.
But I also didn't have my parents around.
Got it. Okay.
Right? So it's like when I go to Kung Fu, it's probably like every Friday night. And then on the weekends, we might have some like lion dance events that we have to perform, but on the weekdays, when my parents are at work, there was no involvement.
Okay, so I guess that's the huge difference then between your childhood and the childhood that we're giving the kids, because we are putting or dedicating our time to actually be there with them,
right.
To see them in their classes and to like support them when they need to change like into their gis and stuff like that.
Right. So like by the time the kids are off school at 3 p.m., we're literally with them from like 3 to bedtime. There's moments where we have to step away from them and do our work, because we don't get to finish it throughout the day.
Yeah.
So, but we are there with them from 3 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference because like just being present, like you could see the difference because, we've seen some students, right, where their parents just dropped them off. And it could have been the same situation as your parents because they had to work all the time. They're doing stuff for the community. So it's like, all right, well, we're going to drop you off to take these classes so that we have time to get stuff done.
Right.
So they're not really there. And you can kind of see the levels of motivation for those students because they don't have that extra push and the support of their parents to be like, hey, train harder. Hey, make sure you do this and stuff like that.
Well, I'm also making sure our kids aren't getting defeated every day at jiu-jitsu, right?
Well,
so when they're going live at training, I'm like, move this way, get your arms this way, do a takedown. So I'm there supporting them nonstop compared to the other parents who aren't there. They can't help them. So now they just sit out sometimes. And
I think that was one of our goals too when we decided that we wanted to have kids, was that we wanted to have the kind of lifestyle and work where we can have the flexibility to be there with the kids.
So this is when you say that I work too much and work too hard or I'm always working. It's because there's time slots I put aside to be with the kids and dedicate stuff for the kids that now after we're done with certain things, I need to get to work and finish it. And that's also during the times when I still need to be with the kids, but you take over, where it's like putting them to bed, brushing their teeth or like helping finish their dinners. Like I need to leave those situations earlier to finish the work that I stopped at 2:00.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you're figuring out more of a balance now, more so than before.
Yeah.
So now you're actually putting in more time with them. And I think they can see it too, because I can see the difference with their behavior.
Well, I think it's ever since we started paying out our work, right? So in the past, we were always with our kids. Like we vlogged all the time, right? So we go to the zoo with the kids, we'll vlog it. We'll go to Disneyland, let's vlog it, all of their experiences. So we're actually with them. And then when we come home, I got to edit for the next 2 to 3 days. Right. But now we have an editor, so I don't have to spend the time away from them at night.
Yeah.
I can be away from them for like 2 hours, but not like 8 hours a night.
Yeah. So it just sounds like with all of these situations when it comes to bullying, and raising our kids, I feel like they just need us to be better parents to try to teach them and prepare them for these kind of situations because it's going to happen all the time.
So would you say that you think our kids love jiu-jitsu?
They do love it.
Even Enzo, who cries
even though
every day?
he cries, I feel like he takes it more seriously too. And ever since he saw Leo do the tournament, I feel like he's training harder because of that. And he understands things a lot better.
They definitely understand the coaches more and they can listen a lot more because now when the coach says one thing, they're on it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like Enzo getting in your fighting stance and he's automatically like this in his fighting stance. You know, he bends his knees, puts his hands up, and like,
Yeah.
it's awesome to see this. You know, I just wish every kid had opportunities like our kid did.
Yeah.
Or
like they do.
Like they do.
Yeah.
So, man, this episode is pretty hard to talk about. Once again, you know, I'm sorry that the Lewis family has to go through this situation and every other kid who is in this situation as well. It's, I hope you guys get the justice that's needed. And
this was at a good school too, right?
this was in, I don't remember. It's either the east or northeast.
I see.
But I'm going to put the link in our description box for the GoFundMe for Jonathan Lewis so you guys can go support as well. So make sure you click the link in the description box. Make sure you guys subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon. I think Google is going away very soon and turning into YouTube podcast, guys. So look out for that as well. And thank you for listening to this episode. It really, every time we have these episodes, I learn a lot about my wife. I learn a lot about myself and our family and what we're doing. And it just opens up a lot of things that we're doing. And I appreciate these podcasts a lot. And I hope you guys appreciate listening to them because I want to keep this going.
Yeah, we hope that the messages that we're actually learning through these podcasts, that you guys are getting the same. So
yeah. So thank you guys for listening to Love and Rice podcast. And we'll see you in the next episode.